Good evening, and welcome to the Putnam Valley Board of Education Business/Work Session of January 24th. We are resuming a meeting after having an executive session, but I would like us all to stand and join me as we salute our flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I'd like to start with a resolution to approve the minutes of the work session business meeting of January 10th, 2019.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd also like to announce that the treasurer's report for December 2017 is available in our business office. And now, let's talk money.
Don, I can hear it.
Good evening. I'm going to talk tonight about the fiscal stress monitoring system that New York State has in place for school districts and municipalities. I think it's, we're opening up our meeting tonight and meetings coming up discussing budget. Budget season is here. So I thought this was a good way to kick off our budget season to talk about the stress monitoring system. It's a system put in place by New York State Office of State Controller to measure financial and environmental stresses on a school district. The report comes out every year for the past 3 years, and they'll probably be publishing things in the paper soon about different school districts in the area, across the region, across the state. So, you know, I thought it would be a good way to start off our budget talks this year. So I took some of these slides directly from their webinar so that, you know, the information is exactly as they stated. So to give you an overview and how they measure, they have an objective, they use a set of standard calculations, they apply them uniformly to all the districts across the state, and they base it on financial information that we provide to them. So that's where they put their data together from. What they don't measure, and they're specific to mention this, is that they don't assess how a school district is being managed. They don't adjust for late-breaking local developments. So if we have something happening here specific to us, they expect us to assess that and discuss those anomalies. So if those things, you know, change our ratings in any way, that would be just like up to us to discuss amongst ourselves as a community. They don't consider the impact of local political climate, and they don't assess the overall fiscal health. Again, they look at specific standards, specific indicators. And so here's one of them. For the financial indicators, there's a list, but they have two standard measures. One of them is financial, one of them is environmental. So for the financial indicators, they look at our revenues. Do our revenues equal our expenses? Are the annual expected revenues sufficient to support our expenditures? Is the district relying on reserves to meet its needs? So when we prepare our budget, are we digging into our reserves when we make ends meet in the budget for revenues? How often and how much are we using? What was our year-end fund balance? Has the district been in an operating deficit over the last 4 years or for 4 years or more? What is our cash position? In other words, are we able to invest during the year? Are we able to take cash and actually put it somewhere and invest it? Or are we carrying notes that we have to, you know, use to get us from one fiscal month to the next in order to get through the year? Those are the financial indicators. The environmental indicators, and again, these can be unique, and they can be, you know, in other words, out of our control, not necessarily standard to all districts, but they use specific indicators to measure when they do it. So they look at something that could be out of our control, which is what is the % of economic disadvantaged students in our district? What are our class sizes? what is our teacher turnover rate, what is the percent change in property values, and historically speaking, what is our budget approval rating, our percentage of budgets that we pass, and what is the percentage of our ELL students. So this is how we fared. So on the left, you see the score, the scale, you know. So I'm gonna go right down to the bottom of the scale. 0 to 24.9 is no designation. Oh, this didn't line up correctly on the PowerPoint. Okay, so in 2016, we had a 0 designation for financial overall. In 2017, we had a 0. In 2018, we had a 6.7. But it's still within the no designation range. I'll talk about the 6.7 as we move forward. And environmental indicators, same thing. This one you can see a little better. Scores are on the left. We're still in the no designation range. We had a score of 20 in 2016, 20 in 2017, and 15 in 2018. So at these websites here, it does go into the detail of how they score each one of those indicators. In other words, if you're looking at the financial, and I want to go there, but I don't want to take too long on the, they actually only have the 2017 results there. In the 2018 data will be posted there, but this will be up on our website if anybody's interested. But if I go back and I say that, you know, they have all those indicators, they add up. They might give 5 points for lower property values, or, you know, 10 points because we have, I think it was, you know, not teacher turnover, the, I'm trying to think of what the one was that I wanted to tell you about. Sorry, I'm gonna go here. Here it is here. So, in other words, we got 5 points because our, our class sizes were above, greater than 22, but less than 24. We might have gotten 0, so the lower the points we have, the better, okay? So we might have gotten a 0 if our class sizes were less than 22. Okay, so just to give you an idea, these are the things they measure. The property values, right here, we got 10 points because our property values were dropping, and, you know, we fell into the point system that they have there, and I can't see it too clear. It says 10 points if you were under a -2%, but greater than -4% in property values going down. And then we got another 5 points for the percent of English language learners, okay? And that was because we have under, I'm sorry, can you see that better than me? Under than 3%?
Under
We have
3.
about 3%, yeah.
The other one's
Greater
3
than
to 5.
3%, but less than 5%.
That's about what we.
Okay, so just to give you an idea, these are some of the measurements, and anybody can go here and look at any of these. I'm not going to run through. This is the list of the environmental ones. There are fiscal ones as well. It'll be on the website. Oh, and yeah, the presentation from tonight will be on the website tomorrow. So what we can do is, I mean, what someone can do is go there tomorrow to see anything they'd like to see. All right, so these are the fiscal stress designation for the state overall. About 3.9% of districts were in fiscal stress. So out of 674 districts, it's not a lot. So this is our regional breakdown of fiscal stress. So in the Mid-Hudson region, they stayed about the same in 17 and 18, and they've only been measuring this for 3 years, so there's not a lot to look at. And this is they feel that districts in high need and urban, suburban areas were more likely to have fiscal stress. That makes sense. And that's been continuing that way. School districts in fiscal stress were commonly operating with a combination of issues. So most districts that had stress showed not only low fund balance, they might have had an over-reliance on their short-term debt. They probably had more than one of these categories to be considered in high stress.
Now, Jill, were these stress tests built based on but as a result of the recession? Is that why the state decided to put in stress
Decided to
tests?
put it together. I would assume that after they put the tax cap in place, they wanted to see how how that was affecting school districts statewide, because it didn't come out till sometime after they did the tax cap. And then these are the environmental stress levels. 11.6 seems to be where everybody is, across the state there in the environmental factors. And so here's that regional breakdown, the Mid-Hudson region. So we have actually a higher stress in the lower part of the state. There's more environmental stress than there is fiscal stress. Because we're closer to the city, we have an influx of those factors that they use as indicators. And then they also state that fiscally stressed districts were more likely to exhibit environmental stress. So one, hinges on the other. And all this, again, can be found on the website tomorrow. And again, go to the website, go to the link, and go to New York State's website to really see what our specific indicators were.
So the larger class in that, and I guess in the 5 points we got dinged in the other piece, the larger class size indicates a higher level of environmental stress.
And yep, within the district. So the larger your class size, the more stress your district is going to. So from an environmental viewpoint, that's true. From a fiscal viewpoint, I could see that a lot differently. So what are some things to consider? Are we generating enough revenue to cover our expenditures? And after heeding the recommendation of the New York State Comptroller's audit report by using fund balance to supplement our revenues over the last couple of years, we have to look at whether or not we are being careful about how much we continue to appropriate our fund balance. We have to remember environmental factors can be explanatory, and at the same time, they act as an early warning sign for us. So examining the long-term ability to present a budget below the allowable cap is becoming difficult. And as general contractual costs increase for school districts, the aid that the state provides is not increasing at the same rate. So, like things such as mandates, we're continuing to get them, but the state aid isn't coming through at the same rate. So that affects us locally. And as hard as our administration works to reduce and negotiate and lower contracts, the realization of increased costs exists. Slowly, we will see districts all across the state utilize their reserves and may have to eventually go out, ask resident school taxpayers to pass budgets that require a supermajority approval rate and an annual vote. Right now, Putnam Valley, since we started the tax cap, and we've been adopting budgets under the cap and maintaining those programs without asking for that supermajority. So it's just this is something to be vigilant about, and these indicators and these results can help guide us when we are planning our budget. So responsible budgeting, the district implements programs that are necessary for student success because they understand the mission and vision by both the board and the community while being mindful from a fiscal standpoint. And that's what we should be taking away from this, and that we keep a balanced approach when we do our budgeting. That's all I have for this. Does anybody have any questions?
So I think you covered it first, but we fall in the no designation area.
That's
for-
correct.
For both areas,
Yes.
which is good.
Yes.
And in both the environmental and the fiscal areas, we are in the no designation area, which is right where you want to be, correct? Correct, thank you.
So I have two questions. Well, they're actually an A and B. Do we envision a time when we won't need to allocate reserves to balance the budget? And if we don't, what would need to happen for that to become possible?
Okay, so it's a big question. So
You're welcome.
I don't envision that happening anytime soon because our state aid is not enough and our allowable cap is not enough to cover the increases that we're seeing to maintain the staffing and the programs that we have. What do I envision to see that happening is that we figure out a way to get the legislators to reinstate our foundation aid. Our foundation aid has been cut by over $22 million. Our district alone, $22 million over the 10-year period. Over the last 5 years, it's like $8.3 million that we are short. And we're a very small district. It's happening all across the state. Our state aid has to be reinstated. I don't know, when that could happen. So the answer to your question is, I see things going away from the district that we value, because if we can't, unless we go out and try to raise taxes to make that happen, that's the only way it's going to happen. Otherwise, locally, we don't have any other sources of income.
So just, if I may add a couple of things, and absolutely what Jill is saying is where the situation is right now. We're in a vice, basically, between the tax cap, which publicly discussed by the government, the state government, is a 2% cap. But the calculations are such that for us, that cap is 1.29%. Now, that's well below any cost of living or anything that could be seen as CPI, but that's the cap we have, 1.29%, that we work with. And the tax cap, I feel, was very, very important in this state, because property taxes were rising at a rate that wasn't sustainable. So yes, the tax cap has value. However, the tax cap at the same time as a reduction in foundation aid is not viable. In other words, a district that relies upon some sort of revenue from the state through the legitimate process that is used to provide that revenue, which is the state taxes, all the different types of state taxes that are collected, that is not happening. And in fact, Hudson Valley region is treated in a very inequitable way. Long Island is receiving most of that aid, in the city, of course, but Long Island. So we are caught between a vice that really enforces the idea that we must look at, if not necessarily reserves, fund balances. I would talk about it more in terms of fund balances. Now, we do return each year some. At the end of the budget, we return money to those reserves. So it's not as if we're just pulling out and not putting in. But the fact is that that only can last for, it's like bailing a boat. You know, at some point, you will lose the ability to bail. And it is something that I think all communities need to look at very closely. I get calls a lot from community members thanking us for staying within the cap, because they get a rebate on their tax. And it's a positive feeling, and we, as I said, we've been below the cap. But at this point, our issue has to be to advocate for communities to obtain a higher amount of foundation aid. Now, I've started a campaign where I've written an article on this, and I did it personally, not from the board, but as a superintendent of schools. It's going out now we're sending it to legislators. I'll post it on the website. But I think we have to raise consciousness and awareness that we can't go forward without the foundation aid in order for us to keep our programs. New York State is known for quality. We have a quality educational program in New York State. And that's what we've been focusing on. There's a tremendous emphasis on it, and I believe in that very strongly. We all do. We want an equitable program, one in which all districts have an opportunity for the revenues to be able to do things for our schools, for our kids. We have a lot of initiatives here that have been very successful. We've seen the results of those. But unless the state comes forward with some type of relief in terms of foundation aid, we're going to find ourselves in a situation where we can't afford the quality education that we want to have.
So short of increases in aid or a new formula as to how education is funded, we'd either need to put in significant cuts or look for a supermajority. That's essentially all our
I
options
see
that
it
we
coming,
have,
I
right?
see it coming. I don't necessarily see it coming for like this budget, where we're coming upon the
We're
budget
working
now. This
very
isn't
hard.
something that's happening immediately.
On this budget.
This is an awareness that we need
Right.
to raise, because we have been using our fund balance in years past, and I would say more than 5 or 6 years ago, probably at the beginning of the tax cap. We were returning most of the appropriated fund balance back to the budget. We were able to do that. Because we're not getting enough aid to support those programs, and because we can't raise taxes above a certain level anymore, without exceeding the cap, it's just squeezing it and making us use some of the fund balance, and quite a significant amount over the last, 3 years or so. So, yes, that's true. What you just said is true. It's not going to last, and we have to probably, I would say, I'm gonna guess that within 2 to 3 years, that will be the case, where you'll see a lot of districts going out for supermajority.
So they're looking, right now, the legislature is looking at some more flexibility with the cap, some other things. Frankly, I don't think we can pin our hopes on that. I think we have to, really work hard to get the state to look at its priorities. Because very often, the funds that are allocated are not allocated so that the district can use them for its needs. They're advocated for targeted needs that have political value. One of the things that we face is that every year the state has a different mandate or requirement that we have to fulfill. And they're all valid, and they're all excellent requirements that all focus on good education. Unfortunately, with the requirement and the mandate also comes funds that we have to provide, and usually personnel that we have to provide, all for good reason, that we want to provide. And the problem is, with the mandate and the lack of aid, we're in a serious situation. We are, as we say,
No,
we're
but
not
then
under fiscal
the controller's
stress.
office continues to visit school districts, do fiscal reporting on them and financial reporting on them, and telling them that they shouldn't have
Yes.
X number of dollars in their reserves, and, then, it's only gonna take, X amount of time
Because
before
we're
you.
not even supposed to have.
Yeah.
We have to be very careful with our reserves. Every single.
And now they're trying to create a new reserve, a teacher's retirement reserve, which they should have created 10 years ago, to give people a tool to reserve money for those types of things. And they're coming out with it now when they've asked people to reduce their reserves. So it's kind of ironic, actually.
You may have said it at the start of the presentation, I'm sorry if I missed it. Is this fiscal stress and fiscal stress monitoring, is that gonna be tied into a state aid formula at all?
There's no talk of that,
Okay,
no.
just-
No, it's just a
right.
reporting back to let you know
We're,
what they think.
And Dr. Wills, you mentioned Long Island, Long Island. And then can you go back to the Long Island slide that shows how high
This is the stress one. Oh, no,
the Long Island one?
okay.
No, yeah, that one. The downstate, the Long Island piece. You were talking about a lot of the aid obviously goes to New York City and Long Island. Is that the issues of, it all ties into English language learners, large class sizes, big schools? Is that some primary stuff with Long Island?
It's really more about a political decision.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
about
city
political
school
decision-making.
districts just get a different share of,
They
Right.
get a higher share.
yeah.
So just recently, I met with a state assembly person, Kevin, from out in Brewster, and we talked about some of the proposals from the governor's budget, and they showed us a graph of the state aid that goes to different parts of the state. And Westchester, Putnam, Rockland, it's a very sort of, there's valleys and peaks, and it varies back and forth. And then when you look at New York City gets a set amount every single year, which we would expect. So their line was totally flat. But it was very surprising to me to see that Long Island's line is totally flat. So the amount of state aid they get year after year has essentially not changed at all. while all Westchester, Putnam, Rockland, Dutchess continues to vary year to year in terms of what we get. And when the question was asked, it was sort of, that's the way it's always been. And there's such a strong lobby down there and so much power that controls it that it's become ingrained in the state aid formula. Is Long Island gets what Long Island gets, city gets what the city gets, and then everyone else is left to compete for what's left over. And many districts like us are underfunded, but people don't like to talk about the fact that there's many districts that are overfunded. There's some districts that are getting 200 to 300% the amount of foundation aid they should get, because it's been frozen in a point in time and has not been changed. So as those districts become more and more affluent or get less and less English language learners and those other variables that affect foundation aid, those districts are being overcompensated. But nobody talks about taking money away from those that are overcompensated, but many of the ones that are undercompensated are left in situations like ourselves.
And unfortunately, the ones who get the least in terms of their needs are the ones that need the most. And so that's another issue. We're not in that position, but we are in a position where we see more and more pressure on our school district to be able to provide programming. And, you know, we do have many more students with who are English language learners, and we are providing the appropriate, proper kind of support. But that's all new, basically, in the last 4 years. And we, you know, we started out with just very, very few students with those needs. Now at the, you know, we're looking at 57, I believe, just at the elementary school. So this is it's a big change, and we respond because we want the very best for every student, so that they can succeed.
Right, this is not to put any blame on a community, just a matter
No.
of, these are realities.
These are
Of
realities.
services we have to provide.
We have to provide these services, and we want to. We believe in those services. The fact is, we need to have the proper funding for those services.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Jill. Okay. It's budget time.
This is the elementary school budget with Ms. Podesta.
Good evening, Margaret Podesta, principal of the elementary school. This is just a brief overview of our budget and our looking ahead to the 2019-20 school year. Just a Happy New Year message from our staff there. Every year we put our family pictures and holiday cards up in the main hallway for all to see, and our teachers have the most beautiful children, they really do. And here's our mood meter that we are using in our ruler with the Yale Emotional Intelligence approach, and this is made by Mrs. McCormick. Children in their classrooms are now using their mood meters every single day with their feeling words, and they are plotting their mood in order to be able to label it, recognize it, and work with it to be able to be in a place to access learning. So this is in our main hallway, and this has become a part of our school culture. Okay, our goals for our current year and also continuing into next year. Of course, first and foremost, continued student progress in all academic areas, reading and writing, math, science, and social studies, and a celebration and analysis of student data at PVES. We are very happy to say that our students continue to show progress. Our data has greatly improved over the past few years. Our teachers work so hard, and our students are very engaged in their learning, and it's showing. Appropriate support and enrichment for all students according to specific learning needs, and so that's support, but it's also enrichment. And I'll talk about our math and ELA sessions that have started at the elementary school. Targeted reading intervention based on student data, so you just don't go to reading support, you may go to a reading AIS class focusing on decoding, a reading AIS class focusing on comprehension and writing, very specific based on the data that we're able to collect from both teachers and from the student work. The math and ELA challenge sessions. The math challenge, as you know, began last year. Dr. Luft was instrumental in helping us look at that and seeing what was possible. So Mondays during I block, the intervention block in each grade level, from grades 2 through 4, we separate the children according to tiers, and the children, not TEARS, the different, different levels of math, and we play games and do projects and do logic problems, and Mr. Coleman, our math AIS person, comes in and he takes kids who really need to be challenged, and of course you've seen some of the work that he's done recently with students. The ELA challenge began this year. We do that a little bit differently. We do that on Fridays, and we don't separate the children. They stay with their homeroom teacher unless they're getting mandated services elsewhere during iBlock, and they are working on units designed by a teacher team, whether it is writing, we did game playing with words, and we're just going to continue on with that. We're doing a lot of nonfiction work and reading graphic novels as well. Our ENL services, as Dr. Wills just said, has continued to grow. We have children who work with our ENL teacher based on the minutes regulated by the state and what the children need. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had 7 new students join our school, move into the community. I think 4 of them were Spanish speaking. So, you know, our community is embracing these beautiful children, and we need to know how we can serve them best. And we're also talking about a Mandarin pilot in kindergarten for next year, which is very exciting. It's just a pilot program as far as next year. The kindergarten teachers are really looking forward to this new idea, which is just a teaching assistant who speaks Mandarin working with each class for a certain portion of a day. Excuse me. And then looking at what that might look like into first grade. So we'll see. It's just
to say
starting.
something about it.
Yeah.
We're just exploring this because BOCES has sort of asked if we could be interested in something like this. And of course, we're looking at the fiscal ramifications of it. It may not be possible, but we were looking at sharing it with Garrison and Haldane. And actually, I spoke to BOCES today, and they're so interested in this that they said they probably would support it themselves for a year to see how it would work. It's again, opening something special for our students so that they see where they are in the world. And it goes along with some of the work that we're doing at the middle school as well in teaching.
And of course, it's based on the research that shows when children are most able to access language. So it's exciting. Continued support of our character education and diversity program. Of course, this committee does so much for our school and our building and our culture, and you'll see some more of that in this presentation. But for instance, in February, they're all filling out random acts of kindness on a calendar and checking them off as they go. We just did Martin Luther King and Peace Quilts, so just a lot of great stuff going on. The Yale Ruler Model implementation with students this year as opposed to last year. We really took the year to work with the staff, and further development with our STEAM initiatives throughout the school. And here we are in technology class. Looking at the overview for this year, from this year to next year, you can see I can't predict kindergarten at this point, but registrants are calling for sure, so I just used 100 to be safe. First grade, you don't see major changes. The only major change is our very big group in third grade where we have the 6 sections going to fourth grade where there'll be 6 sections. So our total enrollment right now is 539, and we'll probably be at 526 next year with these predictions. Our current class sizes, which we were just hearing about 20. Kindergarten, we have a nice healthy group there of 5 sections, 20, 19, and 20. First grade, second grade, and look at that third grade. They have the higher numbers a little bit, but the 6 sections, and then fourth grade, 23 in some of the sections. And 2 self-contained classes for K2 and 2 through 4. Some happy art students. Class projections for next year, again, 5 sections of all classes except for the bigger section going to 6 to 4th grade. little sing-along where we had some high schooler carolers come over to the elementary school and sing carols for us. Upcoming staff changes, we're just watching the incoming kindergarten enrollment, as we always do at this time of year, and we always need to look at our ENL teaching schedule based on the needs of the students that we have in our building. Staffing stays pretty much the same. I don't have any big news to report from one year to the next, which is probably good. Everything stays pretty much the same here. Our professional development sessions have been focusing on guided reading with Jackie Levine from BOCES, who does a wonderful job consulting with our teachers. We've had Eureka Math refresher sessions with Peggy Golden, who has helped us so much. We have a writing team formed to look at vertical alignment, K4, and we'd love to bring that up to the middle school as well. Class demo lessons, data analysis, and benchmark assessments. And when I say class demo lessons, teachers watching other teachers and then having the chance to debrief. No change that I can see in specialists from this year to next. We just had some phys ed classes in the auditorium because the new gym was getting great work done with heat and air conditioning.
Which is now done.
Yes.
And they're in there. and
It was so
warm.
fast, just so fast. And of course, this you know, but our continued student-centered activities, our Kinder Camp has proven to be so successful, so we're looking at that again for August 2019. Our Maker Club is in full force, along with the Maker Space that the teachers use, and of course, Mrs. Bross from our library plays a key role in using that space with the students. Our Science Maker Fair is coming, and we're looking for expansion of that with some students actually competing in Lower Westchester with the facilitation of Mrs. Bross's daughter, who's such a science person, and she's looking to work closely with the elementary school. So that's just only going to add what we can do. Our Kids of Character Club, the Young Explorers Club, the Garden Club, Garden Curriculum Club, and that focuses on sustainability. Oceanographers Club is new this year. Of course, always the PVES musical that gets rave reviews, our gym show or Olympics, and the elementary chorus is part of what we do. Our kids have so many things to choose from. And a focus on continued improvement in all academic areas. We never lose sight of that. And there's the beautiful staff celebrating the holidays together. It was a great celebration, and I just love working with them. That's it. Any questions?
I had one you might not know the answer to. Do you know how early languages other than English are brought into either Garrison or Haldane, since we're looking to partner with them on this Mandarin? Do we know if they already have language built into their
They were
curriculum?
part of the planning meeting with
Yeah,
us,
they
so.
don't- I don't
Okay.
think they have.
No.
And you know, this is just an exploratory.
Mhm.
This may not occur, but it's just exciting to think about possibilities.
Sure.
Again, it's a BOCES program, so there's aid associated with it, and we would not be hiring our own teacher for this, our own assistant. But you know, again, these are the things that we have to look at when we're in budget situations, and I've already talked to BOCES and told them that our budget is, you know, something that we have to be very careful about. And that's when I heard a wonderful possibility that this could be a pilot that BOCES would sponsor. But the fact is, what I think is exciting is that when this was brought to the teachers, they were excited about it. I mean, that to me
Truly, they were.
is a very good thing. It's a sign of real enthusiasm and a sense of, you know, mission and what we're trying to do for our kids. And so that type of response is something that is a value in itself.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Travis McCarty. I have the privilege of being the principal of Putnam Valley Middle School, and I'm here to present on our 2019-2020 budget. But before I do so, I do want to say it's my first opportunity speaking before Dr. Kern Mojica came to join our team. And I first want to thank Dr. Luft, Dr. Wills, and Mrs. Doherty for coming to the middle school during the 3-minute transition time between assistant principalships. And I greatly appreciate that support at the middle school. If you all know, during the time between the holidays can be a very hectic time, and they helped to assist in a lot of the duties and activities that our former assistant principal really took over. And Dr. Kern Mojica has been a great addition to our middle school. It's a pleasure working with him. I think it's been about a month now, so his feet are wet. We're moving
still
along
here?
in a positive direction, and it's a pleasure working with him every day. And I know that our students are very lucky, and it's been a nice with forming relationships with not only the teachers, but our students as well. So thank you, Dr. Mojica, and thank you to everyone who helped to make that transition a very smooth one. So I'm here to speak a little bit about our budget for next year. And I didn't add a whole lot of pictures, but you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and our new hashtag PVMS Rising. We're trying to really brand the middle school and help show the public what goes on every day. And Dr. Mojica has helped to publicize us a little bit more, and I've also been a little more cognizant of taking more pictures just so that the public gets to see all the great things that are happening at the middle school. So you're going to notice here, there's not a great amount of change at the middle school. In grade 5, we do go down 11 students from 122 this year to 111 next year. That's the 4th grade coming over. Grade 6, we're going from 130 to 123, subtraction of 7. 7th grade, not much of a change at all, 129 to 132, plus 3. 8th grade, very similar, 134 to 131. For a total change of around 18 students. And again, this is a projection. It's the first time I can remember in a long time that we're below 500. So we're from 515 right now down to 497. And you know, we have students who do leave over the summer sometimes, and then we gain about the same amount back. But that again, we're going to be right around 500 moving into next year, and that's as a result of the 4th grade coming over. But again, we see that 3rd grade being 6 sections, so we're going to have to keep that in mind as well. So our 5th grade, we are going down a section next year. Currently, we have 3 partner teams of 6 sections. We're going down to 5. We're going to stick with 2 core teachers in ELA and social studies, math and science, so the pods. However, 1 pod is going to be smaller with a special educator, and that special educator is going to focus on a couple academic subjects, and then a general education teacher, much like a model that we saw about 3 years ago in 5th grade. So we're going from a class size of 20 this year, right around 20, to 22 next year, and that's dropping a section. Again, one of our goals at the middle school, I find that with smaller class sizes, teachers are able to individualize instruction. And if we can keep class sizes between 20 and 25, it's a nice population of students. Anything over 25 tends to be difficult for teachers at times, so we try to stay under 25 if we can. Encores will stay the same. Our students still have band and chorus every other day, band or chorus, or band and chorus every other day, physical education, and our 5 encore offerings, art, digital citizenship, family and consumer science, which they love baking and sewing and everything that Mrs. Albano helps to bring to the middle school, health and technology. So 5 sections, class sizes of around 22. 6th grade, we still have 3 partner teams with 6 sections. Same model as we have this year with pods. This has really helped to address all of the social and emotional needs of students. So rather than being content-oriented with 1 teacher teaching a single subject, now there are 2 teachers teaching 4 total subjects, and it's a smaller group, and they get to know their students a little bit better, like the elementary school. and I feel like our pod model is really nice to see in 5th and 6th grade. And we're going from an average class size of 22 this year to 21 next year. So not a great change, 130 students to 123. Encores, same thing with band and chorus and physical education. We have 5 encore offerings in 6th grade: art, family and consumer science, health, safety and well-being, and technology. So 5 sections with class sizes of 25. And by the way, that safety and well-being encore run by Mrs. Parchin has been really nice in meeting the needs of the social and emotional aspects of our students as well. Grade 7, again, not too many drastic changes. ELA, we're still at 6 sections. We're going from a class size of 21.5 to 22, so pretty flat across the board. And same thing with math, 6 sections to 6 sections. Science, 1.0 to a 1.2. The 1.2 actually drops our class size to 22 as opposed to around 26. And social studies, we're adding a 0.2 to help bring class sizes from 26 down to 22. Spanish, a 1.0 to a 1.2, class sizes of 22. So as you can see right down the board, we're looking to average 22 in our class sizes, and we're redistributing a 0.4 with an addition of a 0.2 in social studies. In the middle school in 7th and 8th grade, we have 1 social studies in 7th, 1 social studies teacher in 8th, and this will be able to reduce those sizes just a little bit. And by the way, you see at the bottom the asterisks with Mandarin Chinese. Next year will actually be our 3rd year of the Mandarin Chinese program, and we have in 7th grade currently a class size of 15, which is what they kind of recommend, between 10 and 15 students. Anything larger becomes difficult with the way that the program is offered. So 15 helps to reduce class size in Spanish a little bit, and you'll see the question mark for 2019-2020. We have a question mark because we haven't done our parent night yet, and we haven't really heard who's interested in the program. I will tell you it's intense. The students have great support by Mrs. Sharp, who was our TA in the room, and they are very dedicated to learning Mandarin Chinese. And I do know that the high school will be offering something for our 8th graders that come up to 9th grade next year. Encore classes, band, chorus, physical education. We offer 6 encores in 7th grade. Art, capstone research, which has become a big hit. We have a lot of students interested in changing the environment and the culture, and projects where they have questions about, so they research and then present. And we've been invited, Dr. Luff, myself, Dr. Mojica, have been invited to these presentations from our students. And it's really interesting to hear their perspective on certain topics. And we do listen, and change does happen based on the voice of our own students within the building. We have digital citizenship, health, sustainability, and technology, 6 sections with class sizes of 22. 8th grade, across the board, going from 134 students to 131. Not a great deal of change. 6 sections of ELA with class sizes of 22.3 down to 21.8, so around 22, 23 students. Math, 6 sections again for next year. Science, 8, and earth science, average class sizes of around 22. Social studies, we have flat across the board within 1.2, 6 sections of around 21.8. Spanish, the same. And on average, we're going from, right around 22 in classes to the same, about 22. And you'll see down below, our Mandarin Chinese in our 8th grade is actually a larger class size of 21. Those students will be moving on to the high school. And coming up from the 7th grade are the 15, which help to reduce the class sizes in Spanish a little bit. We don't know exactly what that looks like. Encores in grade 8, band and chorus, physical education. Please note, we have 6 encore offerings. Art, capstone research, again, supposed to be a 2-year course that carries on to 8th grade. Criminology, drama, which, by the way, is very interesting to see that encore class. They're given situations and they have to act them out. It's really neat to see, and Mrs. Jean Marie Torres-Cron does a nice job with those students. Health and technology. So 6 sections, around 21.8 across the board. By the way, I haven't talked a lot here yet about our advisory period, but starting the day with our advisory period has been really a nice way to start the day. I've heard from students and staff members, it's where the 10 to 12 students that are in those advisory classes bond with the teachers. We read our One Book, One School. There's discussion around a Yale ruler and social and emotional learning. We do projects this week with No Name Calling Week. We celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. last week leading up. And it's just a nice theme to carry across. Our students journal and reflect on their emotions. And we found that connecting with those teachers, having someone to go to, checking their grades, doing history checks on their laptops, it's a nice way to meet with a small group of students and form those connections. So that's been really nice positive of advisory at the middle school. Our staffing next year, you'll see 5th grade, we go down to 5 sections. 6th grade stays at 6. 7th grade, we actually go up a little bit, and that's a reallocation of teachers. 8th grade, we go down a 0.4. AIS and ENL stay the same. So we're down 0.8 from 2018, 2019. This just lists all of our encore options. It's really nice at the middle school to be able to offer this type of encore around our core classes. And it really, as you can see, it supports the arts, research, criminology, digital citizenship, drama, family and consumer science, health, music, band, chorus, PE, safety and well-being, sustainability, technology. So a total of 9.6. Administrative and support staff, the only change here is a guidance counselor for the middle school. Our ratio is 1 to 500 right now. We're looking at the new state mandates that recommend 1 to 250. It would be a nice addition to the middle school. And I know the elementary school is looking at new state regulations as well. And that's it. Any questions?
I have a few.
Sure.
Of course I do. In the technology encores, so much has changed since technology started in the middle school. What are the kind of the focuses of each of the years that are happening in technology right now?
Sure, I would have to refer to my tech teacher specifically for each year, but I know they do coding, I know they do circuits. I'm actually pushing to do more robotic work. I'd love to see a robotics club started. With Dr. Mojica coming in, he ran a STEAM program at his former school, so I'd like to have him work a little bit with Mrs. Dracala on that. But I have been in close conversations with her, and she knows she has my support. But I can't break it down exactly year to year, but I will tell you I've been looking at the program, and I'd like to see us expand a little bit, especially with what we have to offer, because as you know, technology changes quickly, and to keep up with the times, I mean, my kids are really interested in BattleBots, and why not bring some sort of competition and engineering into it? And she has come to me and said, well, I would need this, this, and this. Okay, let's make it work. So we are looking at the technology program.
It's definitely been a shift away from the traditional technology class, which was about computer applications and hardware, to more of a STEM-based coding, programming, hands-on type of course, more STEM-based than what was a traditional technology, which was how do you use Excel, how do you create PowerPoint. So it's much more hands-on and active than that.
Does he learn that in their class or before that anyway?
They do. They're actually, Steph is going to a conference where they talk about robotics, and by registering for the, it's either a workshop or a conference, you get into a raffle and you win free prizes to try out their materials. Forget the exact name, but she came to me recently with that, and I said, absolutely, go ahead. You have our full support. So she's going to bring it back to the middle school. We're going to try it out and then see if we want to expand upon it.
And I think a lot of those basic skills are embedded within the projects they have. So the learning's not about how to use Excel. The learning's about how to program something, but in order to program it, you have to use Excel. So it's more of an embedded approach than it is we're teaching the tool. Now we're really sort of teaching a skill.
And I know that was an area of expertise for Dr. Mojica, so is there anything you want to add to that as well?
Good evening, everyone. To speak of STEM, actually, Mr. Call and I met last week, and unfortunately, one of her child was sick with the flu, and she ended up getting the flu, so she's been out. But we started to do an current analysis of the STEM program, looking at the programming aspect from 5th all the way through 8th. And we realized that in the past couple of years, the new Lego Mindstorms EV3 robotics, a few versions were purchased. So we're looking at trickling down and making sure we shore up the newer robotics program for the 8th grade to use next year. And then we can implement in certain topics that was used in 8th grade down to 7th and follow. In terms of the programming aspects, we're looking at, Mr. Call and I are doing a full analysis of the streamline from 5th all the way through 8th grade to make sure there's a connection with what the kids are doing, because the technology does change, and that programming aspect of what's being done. So we're looking at different professional development opportunities as a conferences, as in literature, and I'm helping her and providing her some of the resources I had in my prior position. So right now, it's in the early stages. I know I haven't really been here too long, but I'm just offering as much support as I can have currently. We're going to do a full analysis of the current program and see how we can bolster it and improve on the things that are being done.
Great. Thank you. And then I had a second question on science. I know there was conversation about, as we were getting the IB program in the high school, the ramp up from the middle school and the idea of attempting or exploring Earth Science for All. And just kind of wanted to know where that stood, and then in the plan for next year, how many Science 8 versus Earth Science classes are you looking at?
Sure. So I actually met with Dr. Wills and Dr. Intrieri this week, and that was the topic of our conversation. So
And I didn't know that, just so you know.
Reader.
it's amazing. So we right now we offer 4 sections of Earth Science and 3 sections of Science 8. And what we have observed is that when we offer Earth Science for All, we have a certain segment of students who take Earth Science, and then we have a certain segment of students that take Integrated Science 8. So our discussion has been around Earth Science for All, and I would project being around the same class size coming up as we had this year in 8th grade, with the 7th grade coming up about the same, give or take 3 students. We're going to offer something very similar where we would have 6 or 7 sections of Earth Science. And then we also have to have a plan for those who aren't so successful with Earth Science, very few. We've had a very special program. Mrs. Dugal is phenomenal. A very successful achievement rate, proficiency. What do we offer those students at the high school if they're not successful in Earth Science? And the interesting part with the sciences is there aren't really prerequisites. They don't connect exactly. So in offering Earth Science for All, we get that intensity with the lab and great teachers, and we're hoping for great success. And it'll be able to spread our whole population out and challenge everyone. So that's where we're moving with Earth Science. We're in the really early discussions of it because we have to make sure there are certifications and personnel adjustments would need to be had. But it's really a positive direction for us. And as you've seen over the last couple years, we now have 2 honors math classes in 7th grade. We're going to hopefully project 2 Algebra 1 classes in 8th grade next year, and Earth Science for All, so, and Mandarin Chinese, and Spanish 1. So we're really trying to excel our students to be ready and prepared for this IB program, this intense writing and worldly approach to education. You'll see our capstone research course. You want to talk about writing intense and really investigating and questioning the world around you. That's gearing our students to IB. And I hope eventually down the road, we filter IB down to the middle years.
All right, I have a quick question. I saw, Mr. McCarty, that in 7th grade, the science, social studies, and Spanish, if we didn't have the .2, would be 25.8, which is 26, and that's
Yeah,
a slippery
26.
slope to 30.
Yeah.
You know, if you get 20 kids come in, there's 30, and then you're hiring a TA and grading all those, you know, that's a challenge. I didn't see the same number for the 8th grade with the .2. It's 21.8. Without the .2, do we know what it would be?
Where are we speaking?
I don't know.
Social studies or science?
I think you had them all sort of, yeah, here, that slide.
Yep.
For the 7th grade, if you go to the slide before, no, that wasn't it. Right, there, a .1.0 would have been 25.8, because our numbers are about the same
Are we talking in
for
Spanish?
next year. We're talking science, social studies, and Spanish look like it's exactly the same. They're all 25.8, and with the 1, and there's only 3 different students for next year, so that means that's what it would be for this year, and I think I support the .2. But on the 8th grade slide, I don't see that same, jump to 8th grade now. I'm sorry, I'm very bossy. So they already had a 1.2, I guess, they were sort of all over the place. They had a 1.4 for Spanish, which is why those numbers were the number they were. Do we know I guess my question is, do we know what our classes would be with only one FTE?
I believe it was close to 27.
Okay,
When I actually initially, I haven't projected 8th grade, but I know with 7th grade, social studies especially, if social studies had stayed at a 1.0, we were close to 27. It was either 25.6 or 26.8. I don't have the exact figure, but that's how it would have impacted it, and we were above 25. And then, like you said, you bring 1 or 2 students,
Right,
now
right.
you're moving
That's a
a
very
teaching
slippery
assistant
slope.
into the class. This is going to be pretty similar because the numbers are very close.
okay.
So, you would just take the total number, 131, divided by a 1.0. So divide that,
Okay, thank you, word
You
for
know,
it.
yeah.
Okay, great.
I can't do the math right here, but
That's fine.
it's above 25.
Okay,
Which is why just by reallocating a couple
Mm-hmm.
of people, it makes it a nice class size. And I know what that's like when you're above 25. It really puts a lot of change on the classroom. 26.2. Thank you.
Mr. Physics teacher, on that side of the room.
Yeah, that's a big push in the last few years at the middle school is we can keep class sizes from 20 to 25. It's nice. It really gives the teachers more individualized feedback to our students.
And that difference between 25 and 30 and 29 is enormous, even though it's only for students.
It
It's
is.
it's an enormous
The
difference.
other aspect of that is that we're also looking at more active classrooms. And when you have, more students, you tend to have a more passive lecture process. So if we're asking teachers to do more in terms of, small group engaged work, we need at least a balance.
Ms. Carter, you included your PPS staff members in your slide, specifically the new guidance counselor, but this question is more for Mrs. Doherty, in that I know the prime purpose of the the prime regulation is that there be a K-12 guidance plan that
Yes.
the board adopt, and we have not yet seen that.
So it's in the works. Dr. Wells and I, and Jeremy also, have, really charged two of our guidance counselors to help put it together. And we'll review it this week. We're also looking at making some changes based on both the new regulations and this new guidance plan that we need to
We
have.
also are bringing in someone to audit our plan.
And just to look it over,
Yeah.
just to really
See.
give us advice on how we can best coordinate, especially K-5 and K-6, that program in particular, with the faculty that we have.
And when we look at this guidance counselor we're talking about, what we're really talking about is someone who would be connected to the elementary school as well, that there would be a coordination of that
Coordination of
process.
services,
I
yes.
would just really prefer to have the plan guide the personnel, rather than pick the personnel. I
Right.
want to see what the plan is
Well,
saying.
agreed.
And I know from reading the plan myself that you don't necessarily need a guidance counselor. You need someone to conduct those tasks.
Exactly.
K-12 would, another social, I'm just throwing out, that's why I want the plan to direct
Well,
the
I
decision.
Exactly.
think that's why we asked the auditor to come in, someone who's an expert in this area, to help us with the plan and to make recommendations as part of
And
that.
BOCES recommended somebody, really highly recommended somebody, and we're going to use her just to really ensure that we have a sound plan.
Absolutely.
One that can customize our district and that the plan really drives our services.
Right,
that make
'cause
sense?
It absolutely makes sense, and I know, I'm sorry I'm taking your thunder,
okay.
but your children are among our social emotional neediest in any
right.
district.
Yeah.
The middle school is the middle for a
Yes.
reason.
Right.
I had quite a day today, so social emotionally.
Yeah.
But like I said, I know clearly there's a need. We had one guidance counselor when there were 700 students in the middle school. And
Right.
so now we're going to tell our, about 650 to 700. We're going to tell our taxpayers that we have 497 students and we need another body. So I really want the plan, the role, the tasks
That's
to
exactly it.
drive
Agreed.
the appointment.
If you'd like, either I can do it, or with the guidance department, do a presentation. We could certainly send it to you after it's reviewed, and in the spring, do a presentation on sort of outlining what that includes,
And
what
I
that
think-
looks like.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And you said earlier, you mentioned guidance, the guidance plan, but you actually mentioned the services we provide. And even though the mandate is
really
coming
important.
about guidance, they have a really good lobbying group, the guidance
Right.
school counselors. They don't even call themselves guidance counselors anymore.
They're
They
school
call them
counselors,
school
exactly. And I
counselors.
think, remember when I presented last
Right.
time, I kept saying it's, and I think that's how we have to look at it, that we really need to shift from the traditional guidance counselor as we know it, and it really is about school counseling, and their training is different, and they work very closely with our social worker, with social workers, with psychologists. They also do, it's just a very different role, and I think that we're sort of in a unique time with children where we have this technology that is sort of came so fast and furious, and children have access to everything, and which has created a lot of anxiety in children and just additional stressors that were never really there before. And we're seeing it in the schools every single day, and the services that we provide have to shift and to more of a counseling, social, emotional, and
I was in a first grade class last week and saw her using the Yale Ruler program and teaching kids how to understand what they were feeling, and how to understand when you might feel something, how can you respond, like literally in a classroom. And I think it really is important for us to look at our guidance plan and look and make, it's not traditional guidance, and not that those activities won't go on for our juniors and seniors, of course they will. But really this counseling aspect
How's it
to
embedded to
helping
the day?
children, and providing services, so.
But I
It's
want to be
different.
very clear that we will, because there's real overlapping of roles with the social worker, and the guidance counselor,
Absolutely.
and the psychologist. They're all there to support our children. I don't want us to get pigeonholed into
Agreed.
lanes and have some people with not enough to do and some with plenty to do. That's why I want the needs to drive it. So the faster we can put something in place, I don't want to make a commitment to a guidance counselor in our budget and then make a decision that, oh, maybe we would have wanted to have another social worker.
No, I think it's very important for us to see the plan, and one of the aspects that is very clear in the regulations, the classroom work, is defining a set of expectations for the classroom, for going into classrooms, for doing work with the students, and so it is an expansion
And
of what is
helping
what has been
teachers.
required in the past.
Helping teachers to be able to do that work as
Yeah.
well, really coordinating those
Yes.
services, K-6, and making sure that teachers have the support they need, have the language they need to use, all of those type of things, because it's never just, okay, you go to counseling services and that makes everything
No,
better.
we're not
It
even
has to
talking
be
about that.
all
No,
day, all the
embedding it into the
time.
program, so into the education
Correct.
of the day.
You know,
And-
might I also add to
Sure.
this? So in observing the roles of our psychologist, our social worker, and our guidance counselor, not only have the needs of the population changed with social media. I mean, if you're in a middle school on a Monday morning after a weekend with cell phones,
I know.
Been a lot
you
of
know,
flyers out
you know
there.
what
I
that looks
know.
like.
Exactly.
But I'll also tell you, the one thing that we see a need for as well is partnering with families, students that are struggling academically, who you then have a counselor work with the family, the child, the teacher, and the student to help them get in a better place academically. So the counselor's not only working with social and emotional needs, but also running reports on, who struggled in a certain subject this quarter. I need to touch base with them and see if we can find or
100%.
create a plan. So there is so much there for our counselors to address. The needs assessment is greatly needed,
Right.
but these are things that we observe as that role is not clearly defined. Any day can look different, and we like to call it triaging. We triage together to come up with a plan to help our students.
No, it's absolutely, you could have a day where, I could have a day that I sit and write reports all day, and then I have a day like today that I didn't even know I had a desk.
Sure.
And everything in between. I'm just, not to hijack the middle school, but I want to charge us to really look K-12.
Yes.
The School Counselor Association is recommending 1 to 250. We have about 600 students in the high school, not 750. So, this is the closest area to my heart, but when I sit in this chair, I'm talking for the taxpayers as well. So if we only have 500 students in high school, do we need 3 guidance counselors? I don't know. That's why I want a needs-driven plan and not to make decisions without that. And I promise I won't talk about it again tonight.
Any other questions on the middle school budget?
Anybody else? Thank you. It was very comprehensive. Thank you both.
Thank you, everyone.
This is the best part ever. District calendar.
Oh, my favorite.
This is only BOCES calendar.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
We didn't get to our part yet.
Okay, good.
well, ours will be, we usually try to.
Well, was our record a 2-hour conversation about the maybe not. Months,
And we did
2
have multiple
hours,
meetings about it,
and
yeah.
multiple meeting.
Yeah,
Last year was,
Easy peasy lemon squeezy last year.
Yeah, it's because of
Absolutely.
the holidays in September and October were really
Oh,
funky.
that's, oh, I know, so I want to go to North Carolina and I can't, so I'm good. Let's just be clear. People.
Do the
So, this year, we still don't have a calendar from BOCES, that's the official calendar, but I will tell you, based on the last meeting, this is pretty close to where I think it will be, at least overall. BOCES does have a 187-day calendar, we have a 186-day calendar, so that's different, that's a little different. But one thing that is different in this year's BOCES calendar is this full week in February, and it could be that we're back to this. In other words, if we had a shorter break, you know, which I've been trying to advocate at BOCES as well, the problem there is the kids lose out. We have a lot of kids going to BOCES. We have 60 or more, or 70 kids. So that's a situation. Excuse me?
You want to align, I remember we had this
Yeah,
conversation.
we tried to align
Right.
with what they're doing. We've been having the day before Thanksgiving out. This is not in this calendar. They have, you know, that day is a regular day. We talked at the meeting about half-day, that the state will allow you to count. In the past, the state would not allow you to count that half-day as a day at all. It was, if you had a half-day, it wasn't counted. Now you'd be able to count the hours, because everything now, you know, is based on these hours. The 900 hours for the elementary, 990 for the middle and the high school, or I should say 7 through 12, K through 6, but in our case, because of a 5th grade.
Sorry.
So it's really something that we're going to have to think about. I believe that we should align ourselves with the BOCES calendar, but we're always worried about those snow days, and we like to bank them ahead. So this year, of course, is a year where we didn't have those early days.
Don't
So you know,
say
you can't
anything
predict these
yet.
things. But we are, so we're basically, you know, some of the school districts are taking a full, this is another tweak, another difference. Some of the school districts are doing a full 2 weeks for the holiday break in December, a full 2 weeks. But I can't see, again, using those days. So, for example, the 23rd, if you'll see, that's where they'd start, because
It's a Monday.
it's hard to go just on a Monday. So, but then they're going further, and they're taking the 2nd and the 3rd. And I think that's, again, I don't know how some of the districts that are doing that are actually going to manage. It is a slightly longer
And as
calendar in
much-
terms
as
of the
much as
day.
those
It ends on the
lovely- right.
26th.
As those are much, sometimes I think those 2 days are a good re-entry for the.
Yes,
This year, we had
exactly.
that 3-day re-entry.
Yeah.
It
I
gets
think
all
it-
that cuckoo
I would
out.
I would never recommend that. But
Cobwebs, get all
um,
shaken down.
anyway, this is where we are right now, but we do start, and most people are very interested in when we'd start. We would start with, I'm assuming that we'd start with a superintendent's conference day on the Tuesday, and then start on the Wednesday of the 4th. I mean, that's what we usually do, unless there was something else discussed with the Teachers Association. So that's where we are. I don't have something that's absolutely in stone, but the February break is the discussion point.
Now, there've been, I mean, all kinds of different schools are doing had been doing different things in February. I think Lakeland had a full week last year, or will have a full week this year, or they had a full week last year. and
They've
others
already
didn't.
come up with their calendar, and it's a full week, Lakeland, I believe.
But that's their tradition. They rarely do the,
Well, many of the schools have the full week and always have it, but it's always, for BOCES, they build their calendar based on the majority of districts. So we're still waiting for districts to come forth. I mean, what are your feelings right now about what you'd like to do? I mean, I've been advocating for the 2 days, but I'm not sure that that's going to go. Oh, Lakeland is going with 2 days for next year? Oh, okay.
I constantly think that,
That's good to know, 'cause
by going full week in February, we're dooming ourselves to not having anything off in April.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just kind of the,
That's right.
and then you know, you're going right into that ramp up to the year-end stuff, and it gets really rough. I
Well,
think.
it may be, because now we're hearing that Lakeland is only, in their draft calendar, has 2 days. So,
But I read,
Yeah, so
Right.
that's where I would
Doing
rather
what we
add the
were
days.
doing.
Yeah, Monday.
But I
Yeah.
read, right.
That's what, okay, so that's what I would like to do. And I brought that to the, to BOCES, and that's what I would like to,
Because I remember when we did, and all joking, our 2-hour budget calendar conversation a couple years ago, it was about, can you have students not going to school if BOCES is closed for the week and we're not? And we went with BOCES calendar despite, a
Yes,
lot
I
of
know.
conversations, so I
Well,
know
that was
it's-
also a strange calendar because of when school actually was, it was August,
Yeah.
or what, the way that the holidays.
But
ran,
we
it was
certainly
really
will
big.
have input.
Right.
It depends how many schools.
Natalie, when do you need to know start and end dates for IEPs? Last week?
Last week. No, usually by mid-February, end of February.
So,
It's most helpful.
What we'll do, what I did at the last meeting is say that we wanted to have the 2 days.
Mhm.
So I will repeat that in the next.
I think we get a nice balance of days before snow hits and after snow hits by moving a Wednesday for Thanksgiving, and then the remainder of those days we're getting split between the day before the Memorial Day weekend and then the day after Easter. And then you have more days that you can give back if you have to. If we have, a week of snow in March, you're doomed.
I mean, I would really listen to, look at BOCES, do the process. I'm sure if we started polling parents, a true 50% would want a full week and a true 50% would not, which means, you're going to make some people unhappy,
So-
some people not. We had done for a while in every other, but I remember the conversation about taking care of those BOCES students, so, yeah, see
Yeah,
what you can do.
I'll
Last-
let you know how it goes, what the actual vote will be at BOCES, in other words, what the numbers are. But
And
we're
I think
going in with
aligning-
just the 2 days.
Aligning with BOCES
Yeah.
for those students is what I
Yeah.
I
So
feel is
ultimately,
the
what they
priority.
come up with,
Mhm.
we would
Okay,
follow.
great,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, that wasn't so painful at all. That was very nicely done, Dr. Wells, not so painful. Okay, we do not have student representatives, but I see a PTA, PTSA representative lurking in the shadows.
Hi, good evening. I'm Christina Casey, Corresponding Secretary for the Putnam Valley PTA. We have a lot of events coming up. On January 18th, we had our first and second grade bingo for books event, and thank you to all who attended. Families brought old books that they no longer wanted and swapped them with other families so that they found new homes. In December, we had a magnet fundraiser, and we have some additional PVMS magnets for sale. To purchase a PVMS magnet for $5, complete the form and submit with payment to the PTA mailbox in either the elementary school or middle school. Order forms can be found on our website, our Facebook page, or you can email us directly. We have 2 arts and education events coming up. Author Ronnie Schotter will be returning in February to speak to our 3rd graders, and Chariots of the Sun will be performing for our 6th graders on February 20th. We also have our 2nd annual Pocketbook Bingo fundraiser on Saturday, February 23rd from 6:30 to 9:30 at the German American Club. The doors will open at 5:30 to preview the bags and raffles. Last year we had a great turnout and we're looking forward to this year's. Tickets are $35 per person in advance, but $40 at the door. Admission includes 3 bingo cards, 1 dabber, and 1 door prize raffle. PTA members receive an extra door prize raffle ticket. Coffee and dessert will be provided by the PTA Executive Board. There will be a cash bar, and you can bring your own appetizers or snacks to share with your table. Also available for purchase will be raffle tickets for our various donated prizes, a 50-50 raffle, additional bingo cards for $5 each, or 4 for $20. You have to be 18 or older to play, and space is limited, so reserve your spot early. To purchase your tickets in advance, you can print out the form and submit to the PTA mailbox in the elementary and middle school. And forms can be found on our website, our Facebook page, on the elementary and middle school announcements, and will be emailed again through our PTA email. You could also email us directly for a form. We need volunteers for this event. Those interested in volunteering should contact Brandy at BRANDI GIRL84@msn.com, or info@putnamvalleypta.org. All volunteers are encouraged to play along and will receive 5 free raffle tickets. We're also looking for goods and services to be donated from local businesses or independent consultants in the community. Your donations will be raffled up during the event, and all donations will be recognized in the event program and on display at the event, as well as on our Facebook page and website. If you're interested in donating, please email Teresa at tress999@gmail.com or info@putnamvalleypta.org. Include your name, your business name, your contact information, and your donation. The donation drop-off and pickup due date will be February 10th. The PTA is sponsoring a spelling bee for our 3rd and 4th graders. Students interested in participating should sign up with their teachers. Some important dates include parent meeting on March 12th, a student orientation on March 26th. This is when the students will receive the list of words to study. April 25th is the semifinals, and May 13th is the finals. We have our 3 for Me program running at the elementary school on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 9:15 to 11 a.m. But you could also attend at other times. Just let us know ahead of time. 3 for Me encourages members to volunteer 3 hours of their time over the course of the year to support our elementary school teachers with tasks such as copying and assembling projects, and coffee and snacks are provided for our volunteers. To volunteer for any of the events mentioned tonight or to volunteer for upcoming events, you can sign up through your PTA account at www.putnamvalleypta.org or email us at info@putnamvalleypta.org and like our Facebook page for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. And Pocketbook Bingo was a lot of fun last year. I highly recommend it. I'm going to be a boy this year, and I'm very disappointed. Miss Mistretta and I were neck and neck, yet she won and I did not, but we still had a wonderful time. So you're allowing Dr. Luft to possibly steal your thunder. Dr. Luft, the next business is the curriculum report.
I promise to steal no thunder tonight. I was actually going to defer to my, to the many initiatives and things that we've already heard occurring at our middle school and our elementary school. And I really wanted to commend our administrators and teachers in those buildings there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to see all of those initiatives come to fruition. So I wanted to commend them for all their hard work, and I promise not to steal any of Dr. Will's thunder.
Okay, I just wanted to let everyone know that, the IB program, which has been a tremendous initiative at the high school, and where, there's been a lot of anticipation and expectation, huge amount of work in putting together the folders the binders that the board has seen, with the plans and the syllabi and so on. Well, the authorization visit is coming up on the 4th and the 5th. And that means that the IB organization would be visiting our school and meeting with staff, with parents, with board members, as part of the authorization process. So it's a formal day, 2 days actually. And we are hopeful that we will be given the opportunity to become an IB school at our high school, and the process would begin, the IB will actually begin next fall. Dr. Intrieri will give a presentation at the next meeting when she does her budget presentation. She'll also talk about the IB, and by then we would have at least perhaps some knowledge of where we were with the authorization. I wanted to just mention some things that are coming up. We have a very busy February, and on February 13th, we have the Great Works Concert, which I really urge all of our community members, as many as possible, to attend. It's going to be magnificent this year with the band and the chorus doing Leonard Bernstein 100-year memorial concert, and it'll be, I'm sure, great, because those of us who went to the choral concert at the high school heard some of the West Side Story music, and it was really magnificent. So there's a lot to come with that program. Also on the 14th, we have the one-act plays. That production of the student-written plays would be produced and directed here in our library in this performance space. So that's going to be a very special event as well that I hope we'll get good attendance for. I know we all want to say a good word for our sports, our athletic teams this year. They're all doing very, very well. And it's fun to see our students excel as they are this year in their sports. Midterms is going on right now, they're finishing up this week at the high school. And there was a little, some difficulties because of the weather and the delays and so on, but everything, all of the regions and all of the midterms went as they were supposed to. We're a little concerned about tomorrow morning with icing, so it's something we're watching. We also have a concert coming up at the elementary school. The 4th grade concert is coming up next week, and that's always a great. We have the entire school taking band. It's really quite remarkable, that this kind of participation. Also, I did want to mention that the gym is open now, the newer gym at the elementary school, which was closed for a while, so we could install a very, very high-quality HVAC system. So we have heat, and we also have air conditioning for our graduations. And I'm glad we talked about the foundation aid today, because I think it's the issue for us to maintain our programs.
I just want to point out that the brand-new HVAC system in the new gym runs entirely on the geothermal system that was installed this summer. So we can get heat and air conditioning in that room without using any fossil fuels at all.
That
Mr.
is
Spittle
really a
must be
triumph.
so happy.
He is.
That's great,
He was wonderful in getting it done, too.
absolutely.
He's done incredible work.
Dr. Wills, on the IB, and I was hoping that Dr. Fury would be
Yeah.
here today, but do we know, we won't know on our acceptance or being assigned an IB school until scheduling really was supposed to start. So are there going to be two paths forward? So we're not, the idea is we always have the issue of, in budget time, these many students took this, and if we want to do that, we need an additional to move people around or get somebody else to do that. We're not going to go down that road, but, how do we account for possibly not getting that accreditation or not being able to
Well,
offer IB?
I think we would know fairly soon, because, first of all, they don't take you down this road. There's a lot of work that's been done, ahead of this. So my perspective on this is that we would have our authorization meetings, and then there might be some things that we'd have to tweak between then and then. But the process has been followed very effectively.
Because you saw the documentation of the needs assessment of things that
Yes.
they didn't think that we were already doing, or things that were in process, but we didn't have any
Yeah.
evidence of it yet and stuff like
Yes.
that.
Right, so we've already submitted a comprehensive written plan, received feedback, made changes to that plan and sent back to them. So they have a pretty good sense of what they're gonna see, and I agree with Dr. Wills that we're scheduling with the expectation of being authorized, and that when this visitation team comes, I think it's much more likely that we get feedback for things we may wanna consider tweaking than it would be that we're gonna get a no.
Yeah.
And I think that's, at this point of the process, I would expect them to provide some feedback, but I think everyone is optimistic that we've done what we needed to do to become
Yes,
authorized.
and they've guided us. They guide you with all of these recommendations.
Right, because,
we have.
they have they have a vested interest in getting another school, but, so it's,
Well, we won't discount those kinds of.
I'm not saying that, I'm
No,
just,
no, no, right. Okay, moving on, we're moving on to new business.
for public.
Oh, yes, sorry. I'd like to open it up for public contribution on any, I apologize.
Agenda
Public
item.
contribution on any of the listed agenda items? Okay, now, moving it up to new business.
Whereas pursuant to the requirements of of Education Law, Section 3012C and Part 30-2.9 of the Rules of the Board of Regents, the individual named below has completed all necessary training to be recertified as a lead evaluator of building principals. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby recertifies that the following individual is a lead evaluator of building principals. here's a surprise, Dr. Francis Wills.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 2.
Resolved on recommendation of the superintendent of schools to amend the retirement date for Raymond Stilson, previously approved at the Board of Education meeting of April 12, 2018, to be effective August 22nd, 2019, as per document number 108/18 attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Number 3.
Resolved on recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve an unpaid leave of absence for Michael Rufo from his position of teaching assistant effective January 22nd, 2019 through May 3rd, 2019, as per document number 114/19 attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I abstain. Maureen. Number 4.
Resolved on recommendation of superintendent of schools to approve and authorize the superintendent of schools to enter into an SMOA between the district and the Putnam Valley Federation of Teachers with regard to I can't say the word.
Negotiable?
Thank you. Provisions of the district's annual professional performance review plan pursuant to Educational Law 3020-D as per document 117/19 attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in,
I was just gonna say, this is basically talking about classroom observations, how we will conduct them, what the rules will be, and that tenured teachers will be observed twice a year and probationary staff about 3 times a year at a minimum.
question, that was the comments. All in favor?
Aye.
And moving on to the consent agenda. Number 1.
Resolved to approve the consent agenda items 2 through 12 as presented to the board at this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments?
We're approving CSE, CPSE placements. We're approving contract with the East Chester Union Free School District for one of our students who has special needs who attends their schools. We're approving an overnight trip for our science research students to Clifton Park, New York for a competition this weekend. We're accepting a very generous donation of 2 pallets of Highwood from one of our teachers, Bruce Ludovichki, which will be used at by the Science STEM program. We're approving an electrical rate agreement with Constellation, a supplier of electricity. We're approving the architect's agreement for the capital projects with KG&D, and we're approving additions to substitute tutor list. We're approving a health and welfare contract with Yorktown Central School District for 5 of our students who attend private school in their district. We're approving Catherine Brothers as a long-term middle school substitute teacher. We're approving additional assignments for 2 teachers to take on additional roles. We're approving a contract with Triton Construction in the amount of about $475,000 to manage our construction improvement project.
All in favor?
I have actually, sorry, one other thing. The, Jill, the electricity bid, that's a 2-year locked-in price, and we're happy with that price, yes?
We are. It's about half of the price that we're paying right now.
I'm happy with that.
The agreement is only a shorter term than last time, though, because it's with an approved bidder that bid with New York State, so we can't get a longer term for that price right now, but perhaps next time around, but they
But
could
it's a
go
really good
down.
price.
So, you know, it
Okay.
could be.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to open it up on public comment on any topic. Okay.
I got, the elementary school sent 2 invitations, that was the only extra ones, made by students. Wait a minute. You're invited to the Maker Club celebration Tuesday, February 12th at 4 p.m. in the PVS library. Now, wait a minute, let me press here. Did it light up?
Is it gonna light up?
This one does.
Yes, mine
It did
does.
before, but, oh, Mr. Collins. So, they only had 2 extra, so they sent them to the board, and I hand-delivered them.
Nice.
But
That's great.
it's always exciting to watch them explain their projects and see what they've done in the Maker Club. So if anybody's free and wants to go, you're welcome.
And just, you meant February 12th?
Yes, at
Yeah,
4 o'clock
February 12th at 4 o'clock.
in the library.
Maureen, have we announced that there may be some board meeting changes? Okay, so we sent out a notice. I believe we have a board meeting that day, so we could all go to that at 4 o'clock and then come here to the board meeting. That
We're
would-
gonna have an early board meeting?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'd like to, I'm sorry, I lost my page. I'd like to resolve to convene an executive session for one matter that may lead to the appointment of a particular person, after which time no further business will be
There's
conducted.
another piece, and a matter of pending litigation.
No, that was crossed off.
Oh, I didn't refresh, okay,
Okay.
I'm wrong. Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everyone. Stay dry, warm, and safe.